My name's Aaron and I'm going to show you how to actually get better at chord changes on the guitar with this usable, repeatable process. But there's one thing you're going to have to get right before you attempt the actual chord change, and that is your wrist posture. Let's have a look at wrist posture and talk about why it's important. So correct wrist posture looks like this, okay? You see I've got this curve in my wrist, all right? That's what it looks like. What it shouldn't look like is this, with the thumb over the top of the neck and the hand clenched. What we want is the thumb around the center of the back of the neck, roughly in between the first and second fingers of our fretting hand, okay? So why is correct wrist posture so important? The reason is because you won't be able to span your fingers very wide if your hand is clenched up. If you give that a try and clench your hand like this and try and span your fingers wide, you won't be able to do it. But if you bring your wrist right down and have this nice healthy drop, then you will be able to span your fingers pretty wide, and that's going to help you with your chords. Although I will admit, the first time you try to do it, it does feel a little bit tight inside the wrist there, so do take it easy if this is new for you. So how about actually getting better at a specific individual chord first of all? Well, let's take the chord of E minor as an example. This is a chord that many people probably already know, okay? We're going to be using the first finger on fret 2 of the A and the second finger on fret 2 of the D, but we want those two fingers together at the same time. We use a process called TPLR, Touch, Press, Lighten, Release. So we take the two fingers that we intend to use for the chord, and together we touch the string, but crucially we do not press the string down. Okay, we just touch on top of the string on the intended fret. Then what we do is we press the string into the fretboard and we hold it for maybe 2 to 3 seconds. And then we lighten. So we're not releasing the hand at all, we're just lightening and we're back to sitting on top of the strings. And then finally we release. Okay, touch, press, lighten, release. Now there's one extra thing you can add in there, and that is a strum. With your strumming hand, of course. So you can go touch, press, strum, and you want to strum slowly so you can hear the individual strings and make sure all the notes are there. And then you lighten and release. Touch, press, strum, lighten, release. Okay? And then the next step is to try that between two chords. So let's try going between E minor and C. So if you don't know a C chord, first finger on fret 1 of the B, second finger on fret 2 of the D string, and third finger on fret 3 of the A string. And by the way, if you find that C chord particularly difficult, you can do an easier version by not using the third finger, and that's totally okay for now if you're a beginner, all right? So with our C chord, with those 3 fingers, or 2 if that's what you've chosen, we bring them down and we touch the strings lightly, we press the strings, we strum, we lighten, and then we release. Then we go to the E minor chord, remember, because we're going between two chords. Touch, press, strum, lighten, release. Back to C, touch, press, strum, lighten, release, and then back to E minor. Touch, press, strum, lighten, release. So just remember that when you're lightening, You're still sitting on the string, you're not releasing, all right? So the next thing to add is a tempo ladder. And this is where we get our metronome and we start tracking how fast. I've got a tempo of 50 beats per minute here, which seems a reasonable starting tempo in my experience with students for chord changes, okay? So let's start at 50 beats per minute. And first of all, we're going to attempt changing on every chord, okay? So, touch, press, strum, lighten, release. Touch, press, strum, lighten, release. Touch, press, strum, lighten, release. Now you might find that that's a little bit quick. There's a couple of things you can do here. Here's the first thing I want you to try. Insert a gap between each round of TPLR, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Touch, press, strum, lighten, release. 1, 2, 3, 4. Touch, press, strum, lighten, release. 1, 2. And don't forget to change chord as well to the C chord now. Touch, press, strum, lighten, release. 2, 3, 4, and back to E minor. Touch, press, strum, lighten, release. If that's still a little bit quick, then what you can do is you can do every 2 clicks instead of every 1 click. And then of course, once you've got your approach sorted, whether you're doing 2 clicks or 1 click, you'll play like that for a short while, and then you'll try increasing the tempo by maybe 5 beats or 10 beats per minute. A metronome is incredibly useful for tracking your practice because you can visually see every week that number increasing. Hi, I'm not going to lie, I forgot to put this in the original video. That's why my hair looks different. Anyway, what's cool about these 2 chords is that it's not much of a stretch to turn E minor into E minor 7. So that's pretty cool. And it's not much of a stretch to turn C into C add 9. And those 2 chords are relatively easy to change between. And you can play through an entire song with just those 2 chords by watching the video that's on your screen now.